Namaste students, welcome to our social class. This is your Vijayalakshmi teacher with your social subject, and we are doing the next block after the 16th block, right? It is 17th block, and we are learning physical features of the earth in this block. In the previous block, we were learning about the earth and its neighbors. We learnt about the shape of the earth, moon, stars, the twinkling stars, sun, the importance of sun, everything. Now we are going to learn what are actually called as the physical features of the earth. Before we begin, I have a question for you. Tell me students, do you think the earth is flat everywhere? Is our country flat? I mean the ground, the level of the land, is it flat everywhere all over the country? No? So while going to any pilgrimages or when you were traveling to long distances on tours and travels, whenever you looked out of the window of the car or a train, or you might have seen that the earth is not flat. You might have seen that there are hills, mountains, plateaus. So the surface of the land or the earth is not even everywhere. Yes, today's topic is hills and mountains. Today we are going to learn what are hills and what are mountains. We'll also be learning what is same between the hills and mountains, and what are the differences between these two physical features. How they are different from each other, how they are same with each other. Right students, let's move forward with the topic, right? So, we also see these physical features in our country, right? Not only in our country but all over the world, the earth is not flat. There are some physical features like the mountains, hills, deserts, plains, rivers and lakes. These are the some of the physical features of the earth. Mountains, hills, deserts, plains, rivers and lakes. Right? Now you can see some pictures on the board. What are they called? How are they different from each other? See, the picture which you see here, okay, it has a gentle slope, it has a rounded top, it is called as hill. Okay, so this is a hill. Why do we call it a hill? Both of them look a little bit similar, but what is the difference? Hills have a rounded top. Okay, you can see the top is round, and the slopes of the hill are gentle. Gentle means not very sharp, not totally round, but they are little bit gentle. Rounded tops and gentle slopes. And what is the difference here? What is this picture? This is called as a mountain. What is this? This is a mountain. This is generally, mountains are higher than hills and they have a sharper peak than the hills. When hills have rounded tops, mountains have sharper peaks, and generally most of the mountains are covered with snow. Because they are covered with snow, the weather or the climate in these regions on the top of the mountains will be very, very cold. Okay, so what is the difference between a hill and a mountain? Let us discuss again. A hill has a rounded top. You can see the top is a little bit round. It is not very sharp. Okay, it has a rounded sharp, whereas the mountain has a sharp peak. Okay, the slopes of a hill are gentle here. Gentle means not very sharp or not very steep, not totally rounded. They are gentle here. Okay, gentle here. Whereas the mountain slopes are very steep here. Steep means whether it is rising or falling, you can see it is very sharp here. Okay, so that is the difference. First difference is hills have rounded tops, mountains have sharp peaks. Hills are generally smaller, hills are smaller than mountains. Mountains are higher than hills. And most of the mountains are covered with snow. What is snow, students? Snow is nothing but the ice. Okay, the ice, because as we go high upper from the atmosphere, as we go higher in the altitude, as we travel higher in the altitude, the weather will be cooler. So that is the reason we see the snow on the mountains. So the weather will be very cool there. So even if we are mountaineers who are climbing the mountains, or any people living in the mountains, they wear such kind of clothes which can keep them warm. People near the mountains, or people who are climbing the mountains, they wear such kind of clothes which keep them warm. Especially in the winter season, you need to wear good coats and hoods on the head, gloves, big boots. So in order to protect ourselves from the freezing weather there. Right, students? So hills have rounded tops, mountains have sharp peaks. Hill slopes are gentle. Gentle means, what's the word gentle here? Okay, I'll write gentle spelling here, G-E-N-T-L-E, gentle. Whereas the mountain slopes are steep. Okay, they are steep. See, if you want to climb down a hill, it is easy, little bit easier. But if you want to climb down a mountain or climb up a mountain, then you need a lot of help. You have to take the help of a rope and other things. So the slope of the hills is steep, S-T-E-E-P, steep. And the slope of the hills is gentle. Hills are smaller than the mountains. Mountains are bigger in height. Okay, bigger in height than the hills. And most of the mountains are covered with snow. Okay, that was the difference between hills and mountains. Now let us discuss what is same between hills and mountains. Differences we have understood: rounded top, sharp peak, gentle slopes, steep slopes. They are when compared in height, hills are little bit smaller and they are bigger. Mountains are taller and bigger than the hills. Right, students? These were the differences about hills and mountains. Now let us discuss what is same between hills and mountains. Right? So what is same between a hill and a mountain? Both hill and mountain are higher and taller than the surrounding areas. We can see the hill is taller and higher than the surrounding areas. Right? So that is what is same between a hill and a mountain. And let us now discuss what is a hill range. What is known as a hill range and what is known as a mountain range. When a number of hills are arranged in a series means one after another, one after another. If they are arranged like this, mountains or hills, if they are arranged like this, if hills are in the same line, okay, then they are called as hill range. What are they called as? We call them as hill range. Right? And if mountains are in a series, mountains are next to each other, then it is called as mountain range. For example of a mountain range is the Himalayan mountain range. Right? It is covered with snow. These mountain ranges are covered with snow. Okay? One of the most tallest mountain are in Himalayan range. We can find it. Right? So, then we now know what is a hill range. We now know what is a hill range. Okay? If mountains or hills are next to each other, if they are in a series, then it is called as a hill range or a mountain range. Then what is known as a valley? All of us have drawn this. Okay, earlier in art periods or in free periods, whenever we did drawing, one simple scene was two mountains or two hills, a sun, some birds or a river flowing. That was our first picture, right? So, because the land, okay, the land with this land, okay, the land between two hills or two mountains is known as a valley. What is it known as? A valley. Okay, see, here we have lot of mountains here, a lot of hills here. So this slope here, this slope between two hills or two mountains, this region is known as a valley. So The region between two hills or two mountains is known as a valley. What do we find in valleys? We find many herbs, flower-bearing plants growing in valleys. Rivers will be flowing, mostly rivers, we find rivers flowing in the valleys. Why? Because the mountains which are covered with snow, that snow melts down and forms into rivers. They flow down, the ice when it melts and forms in the water, it flows down and flows in the form of a river. We also see some herbs or some bushes growing in the valleys. They are filled up with flowers, flower bearing plants or trees, and some of the hills, and they also have tea plantations or coffee plantations, okay, plants of trees, okay, farmers, they'll be growing this coffee plants or tea plants there on the hills, right? Now let us try to understand more. Are mountains and hills important to us? Are mountains and hills important to us? Are they really important landforms? How do they help us? Mountains and hills have lot of plants on them. Okay, we can get lot of wood from here. And as I told you before, we have tea plantations and coffee plantations there. And it is a great scenic beauty also. Many tourists are attracted here to such places. And people, especially in summer season when it is very, very hot, we like to go to hill stations or somewhere around the mountains. Why? Because that place will be cooler. I'm talking about the mountains, right? And how is the weather on the mountains? As we discussed earlier, because most of the mountains are covered with snow, it will be very, very cool, right? And how is the climate on the mountains when compared to hills? Okay, when compared to hills, the mountains are more cooler, especially in winter season. The people who are living near the mountains or the people who climb the mountains, they wear such kind of clothes which can keep them warm, right? So that was it. Now for the homework, students, complete S1 of your worksheet and also answer practice question number 2. Okay, what is this S1 worksheet and practice question number 2? We'll discuss now, right? Now for S1, the first worksheet in block 17, hills and mountains. Okay, this is the worksheet, hills and mountains. What is the first question? Name the physical features shown in the pictures. Okay, two pictures are given. One is in orange, light orange color, other one is in black and white. So the first picture, because what do you see in the first picture? You have to write the landform's name. Because we can see these are hills and the top is in rounded shape, the slopes are gentle. You can write in the blank, A blank, you write H-I-L-L, hill. Okay, hill you can write or hills you can write. And the picture B is a mountain. Okay, you write mountains there because they have sharper peaks. If you observe this picture, you can see the top is sharper, the peak is sharper and it is covered with snow. So that is a mountain. What is the second question? How are hills and mountains similar and different? Okay, how are hills and mountains same? Hills and mountains are taller and higher than the surrounding areas. That is how they are same. Okay, hills and mountains are taller or higher than the surrounding areas. How are they different? A hill has a rounded shape, a mountain has a sharp peak. A hill's slopes are gentle, a mountain slopes are steep. Okay, mountains have generally a cooler climate, right? Now question number 3, what kind of clothes will you wear in the mountains in winter? When you are on the mountains and if it is winter season, what kind of clothes will you wear? We wear such kind of clothes which can keep us warm. Why? Because most of the mountains will be covered with snow because they are on a higher altitude, okay, big height. The weather will be too cold, very cold. That is the reason we have to wear clothes that can keep us warm, like sweaters, coats, hats or hoods, gloves, boots, such kind of clothes. Right, students, this was about the worksheet. Now let us go to the practice question number 2. which you have to do as homework for S1. Practice question number 2 is, what is a valley? Okay, what is a valley? This is the practice question which you have to answer in your classwork. The lowland which is between the hills or mountains is called as a valley. Let me read this for you. It is in page number 113 in your textbook. So that is the answer. What is a valley? Valleys are flat lowlands between hills and mountains. Valleys are flat lowlands between hills and mountains. A valley often has a river flowing through it. Most of the time we see some rivers flowing in the valleys. And most people living in valleys find it easy to grow crops. Most of the people who are living in the valleys, they find it very easy to grow crops. Why? Because the soil will be fertile. There will be abundant supply of water because snow melts and rivers will be flowing. So they have the very good soil. They have a very good supply of water. So they build their houses there and get water from the rivers. The climate is also pleasant in a valley. Right, students? You can write the answer. Valleys are the flat lowlands between hills or mountains. So that was about the S1. Now let's move forward to the S2. Let us know what we have there. Right? We are doing the second part of the lesson. Excuse me, students, previously I had written block 19. Actually, it ought to be block 18. Okay, just correct it. Don't get confused. We are doing block 18 S2. Right? Now, students, tell me what kind of landforms do you find near your house or near your place? What kind of landforms? Today, we will learn about the landforms called deserts, plains and plateau. Deserts, plains and plateau. What we had learnt earlier, we had learnt about the landforms called hills and mountains. We learnt everything about the features of a hill and the features of a mountain. How is the climate on the mountains? When compared to the hill, the climate on the mountains or the weather on the mountains is cooler. Right? So we learnt about the hills and mountains. In today's class, in this class, we'll be learning about deserts, plains and plateau. We'll learn about the features of a desert and plains and plateau. Right? Let's move forward with the lesson. Dear students, now open your workbook, page number 11, S2, volume 3 workbook, page number 11, and look at the pictures in the question number 1. Compare the table. Look at the first picture. There is a landforms. All these pictures are different landforms. Can you identify it? Is it a desert? Is it a plain or a plateau? Now let us observe these pictures here. Let us observe these pictures here and find out which of this is a desert, which of this is a plain, which of this is a plateau. And there is also a fourth picture. We'll discuss about it later. So the first picture here is a desert. Picture A is desert. Picture B shows, okay, a plain. Okay, desert is a land which is very dry. It is covered with sand. We find very less trees there, very less rain also, a few trees, okay, and the climate is also extreme in a desert. The second picture, picture B, shows a plain. Plain is a leveled land. And picture C shows a plateau. What is a plateau? We'll discuss now. It has a flat top, okay, it is a raised land, also called as a tableland, right? Now, what is the fourth picture? Actually, the fourth picture is a cold desert. Cold deserts are covered with snow, right? So, picture A is a desert, picture B is a plain, picture C is a plateau, picture D or the fourth picture is a cold desert. and we learn the features of every landform, right? Students, now look at the picture. Okay, what do you see here? These are the features of the landforms. Plateau is flat at top. Plateau is also tall and high from the surrounding areas. But the difference between a mountain and a plateau is that mountain has a sharp peak, whereas the plateau has a flat top. Okay, like this. Flat top. Okay, this is a plateau. Then what is a plain? Plain is low flat land. Low flat land, no features. You don't see any kind of rocks over there. Very big rocks are not there. Usually it is green with grass or plants, right? So what are plains? Plains are flat lands. They have no features. Usually they are green. Now we come to desert. In desert, what is a desert? Desert is a dry land. We have two types of deserts. One is hot desert and one is cold desert. Hot desert is covered with sand, whereas cold desert is covered with snow. So a plateau is a raised land. Okay, it is a high land with a flat top. When compared with a mountain, mountain has a sharp peak. Hills have rounded tops, but plateau has a flat top. Plains are flat lands. They have no features there. Usually they are green in color. Deserts are dry lands. There are two types of deserts. One is hot desert and cold desert. Hot desert is covered with sand, whereas cold desert is covered with snow. What kind of climate do we find in a hot desert? As the name suggests, hot desert, the climate is hot in the day and in the nights it is cool. Whereas in a cold desert, the climate is cold all throughout the year. Now for today's homework, students, from S2, you can finish off S2 worksheet from the workbook, and which practice questions are there, we'll check it out. So starting with the worksheet in page number 11, S2 worksheet, deserts, plains and plateaus, complete the table. Put the date, and there are pictures of 4 pictures of the landform. In the second column, okay, one empty column, you have to write the name of the landform. Okay, first one is a desert, second one is a plain, third one is a plateau, fourth one is a cold desert. Then you have to write the features of a landform. Features of the landform means how they are. You can write for the first picture, features is that deserts are dry lands, okay, with extreme climate. Then second picture you can write plains are flat lands, they have no features, usually they are green. Third picture, plateaus top is flat and they are raised land, okay, high lands, right? Then fourth picture is cold deserts are covered with snow. These 4 sentences are enough. And second question, Antarctica is a cold desert, Sahara is a hot desert. What difference will you find in the clothes of people living in Antarctica and Sahara? Antarctica is a cold desert, it will have a cold climate. Sahara is a hot desert, it will have a hot climate. So people in the cold desert, they'll wear such kind of clothes which keep them warm, whereas in Sahara desert, people will be wearing such kind of clothes which can keep them cool. Loose cotton clothes in Sahara desert. Okay, coats, hoods, gloves, boots in Antarctica desert. Okay, so that was about the workbook. Now let us move to the practice questions. We have practice questions number 3 and 4. Okay, page number 116 from textbook, 3 and 4. How is a cold desert different from a hot desert? Cold desert is covered with snow and hot desert is covered with sand. That's the answer if you want to write it in short. Then how is a plateau different from a plain? Plateau is a raised land, it is a high land, okay. From the surrounding areas it is taller and it has a flat top. Whereas a plain is a flat land, no features, usually green. That's all. With this we come to the end of block 1 and block 18, S1 and S2. Right? complete the worksheets, write the practice and answer the practice questions, and do read the lesson, right? That's all for today, students. Thank you. Have a good day.